We do have the political leader of the NTA, Gary Griffith, on the line with us this morning. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Hi, good morning, gentlemen. Good morning to your many listeners.
So our poll is not scientific, really.
As you know.
But polls give you an idea of what people are thinking. So by 4-1, most people are of the opinion that you made a bad decision. I said you made a bad decision based on the history of just observing the developments of political parties when they align themselves with the UNC. So you tell us why you think you made the right decision.
Yeah, sure. Good morning again. Okay, to start with, when you look at the concept of politics in this country, many people make decisions based on how it may benefit them politically or their own political party. This is not in any way casting any aspersion on you two goodly gentlemen, but I want to be very realistic. Had this been a poll in any of the UNC heavily supported stations, I am telling you polls like that are being done, and it is 4-1 in favor of the decision that I made. So in those stations that are heavily followed by UNC supporters, they have been almost, and even more like 90% agreed. Because we have to remember that the UNC has arguably, when there's a third major party, the UNC will continue to have 250,000 odd supporters. The PNM will have just about the same. And the NTA, whether you call it the ONR, the NAR, the COP, will have about 150,000. So the 250,000 UNC supporters, you go in a main UNC radio station that is followed heavily by persons that support the UNC, you're getting more than that. Not casting anything on this radio station, but definitely not you two gentlemen, but you all have a following on the afternoons that if the West Indies lose a test match to India, Darren Marcel will blame the opposition. So it's as straightforward as that. There are certain stations that are heavily followed by PNM supporters, and there are stations that are heavily followed by UNC supporters. So having said
that responds to the poll question.
Yes, so that takes care.
I want to come to the poll question. The answer would be significant based on the people who follow the station. So that's one. Two, now to explain the reason for it, which is where, and again, there are two sets of persons here that will be thinking. One, people, as I said, those who are heavily involved in the PNM, that would love to have these third parties. They enjoy the ONR in 1981 when they split the votes. They enjoy the NR in 1991 when they split the votes. They love the COP in 2007 when they split the votes. When the ONR joins with the ULF in 1986 and PNM are annihilated, why did ONR do that? When the COP joins with the UNC in 2010 and PNM are totally ripped off the face of the map, why did the COP do that? They lost their identity. The end of the day, gentlemen, and to the listeners, whether you're PNM till you die or somebody who is rational, the concept is that people get and you form a political party, not as a lodge to state based on, we have principles and we have moral values and we are purists. You get as a political party to win and get in government. The reason I got back into politics is because the vast majority of the country, 89% plus, said, look, the man was doing a good job providing us with our most fundamental right. We believe that he is of value to help this country. And for the only way that, if those persons still have the same view, don't blindly support a prime minister who was jealous of my popularity, why it is that we fell out. Understand that the only way that I could provide that type of service to you all, the same way I was able to transform the police service, I could do the same for all arms of the public utilities that Marvin Gonzalez has proven to be a total failure in, and other aspects, is if it is I'm in a position of authority to serve you. And the only way that could be done is if a third party joins with the UNC, not because of our flawed constitution that is not proportional representation, but first past the post. So anytime there's a third party and you go on your own, those people who speak about, we have to stand on principle, and then the COP, the ONR, the NAR, the NTA, we're not a lodge. The reason we are here is to get in government to serve you because we believe we have the policies, the programs, the people, and the political will. And that is what I intend to do. So the best way, the only way it could be done, if you really are serious about Gary Griffith wanting to serve you and be in a position of authority to serve you, is not staying this hard and fast trail of we must stay on our own and not work with either political party, because that means that we will never be in a position to serve you. And may I also add, remember, the people who have a concern about me doing this, the first group, the first prime minister, the first political party that I offered my services to help was Keith Christopher Rowley. Remember that. The country was drowning in blood since I left. I left it at 342 murders per annum. We cut it, we cracked it. It was the lowest number of murders in 17 years. The country felt safer. Crime was the number 4 concern behind health, education, and the economy. The police service public trust and confidence moved from 14% to 55%. After I left, everything went south. Programs shut, everything was shut down. Public confidence in the police went down. And then when I offered, I said, Keith Rowley, forget about the politics. I don't need anything but to help this country. I am willing to show you what I did to turn it around. The man said, I do not care. In local parlance, it's like, the country could drown in blood. I do not want to work with you. So please understand that Keith Rowley was the first person and the first political party that we offered to work with, and he rejected us. So if it is that we are now going to work with other parties that want to work with us, don't be offended.
All right. So I just want to get back to the history of...
No, but Tony, before we get back to...
Okay.
I wanted to ask Mr. Griffith something on what he just said, before I forget later on. You said that the PNM was the first party you approached to work with.
Meaning the NTA, sir?
Yes.
Was there ever a time when you said on any platform anywhere that you advised the Prime Minister while you were police commissioner?
You asked me there, as the commissioner of police?
While you were commissioner of police, was there any time that you advised Dr. Keith Rowley or you were close enough to the government in giving advice?
Oh, many occasions. When I realized that I was actually doing my job internally by pegging back criminals, reducing crime, I realized one of the main concerns was the illegal entry of weapons into our country through the legitimate ports of entry. And I drafted a border protection unit to be able to crack it and to put a stop to it. He totally ignored it. I gave him recommendations of things that could be done in amendment of laws. I gave him recommendations of things when I said I want to draft the police marine unit, certain systems of technology. So on many occasions I would, and that is what a commissioner is supposed to do. Sometimes he would agree, sometimes he would not. So I have already, and that I think is what a commissioner of police should do, not just blindly sit down in your chair and wait for a prime minister to say, look, I'm giving you $45 million. You have to use this directly to hire attorneys from the United Kingdom and target political opponents or try to politicize the police service. My job was to reduce crime, to make the country feel safe, and also to advise the Prime Minister, because remember, the Prime Minister is chair of the National Security Council. They have no knowledge, experience, training, or qualification in law enforcement or national security. They are politicians. So that is why the Commissioner of Police, the Chief of Defence Staff, the Director of the SSA, we are not part of the National Security Council, but we are advisors to the National Security Council. So the role and function of the Commissioner of Police is to give advice to the Prime Minister.
Okay, thank you. Tony.
Right. Yeah. So I just want to get back now to the politics as a person outside looking in. So is it therefore that the decision you made could lead to the eventual disbanding of the NTA and getting into the UNC as a single party to fight the PNM?
Well, no, not necessarily. You know, it's twofold. It could be done similar to 1983 when the ONR stayed on their own. They operated and they formed a strategic alliance with the ULF in the local government election. And then in 1986, based on that foundation framework, there were certain principles that were agreed to, and that's how the NAR came about in 1986 general election. So in this situation, it is similar. We are not part of the UNC. We have not joined with the UNC. There's a strategic alliance that has been formed to ensure that we can win seats and we can actually succeed in the local government election. What happens after that? It will involve dialogue, communication, collaboration, and mutual respect. And if that is done, then it can bind it even further, which is why after the local government election results, if and when this works, the country may very well not have to wait until 2025 for a general election.
So therefore, the NTA is not going to be taken in by the UNC?
No.
Okay, right.
Definitely not. However, may I add, it's a very good point. The concept of the NTA, as I said, there will always be a bridge constituency, gentlemen. It started in 1981 with the ONR with 91,000. It went to 1991 with the NAR on their own with 127,000. 2007, it moved to the Congress of the People with 147,000. So, alluding to the comments of Marvin Gonzalez, where he said that the NTA is one big family. We are a family of 147,000 strong and growing. That was since 2007, so we may very well be 170,000. But it does not mean that everyone who is not a PNM or UNC till they're dead must be a member of the NTA. That's why I intend, after this local government election, to put a lot of work and start looking at the other political parties for us to have that type of framework to work together as a bridge constituency, because there are several other minor parties. They may not have the impact of the NTA or the support of the NTA, but it does make them irrelevant. And the concept that I have is to unite a country. We have seen a prime minister. He keeps saying that he wants to lead a country, but you can't want to lead a country when you show that you hate half of the country.
Mr. Griffith, you go back to the numbers that you just presented. Is it that you have that support base, you're saying, in terms of 100 plus thousand?
Well, in 2007, it was 147,000 with the Congress of the People. 16 years later, it obviously would have increased, because what happens is that the reason why the ONR, it increased to the NAR, the numbers increased to the COP, that third constituency would continue to increase because young persons are not caught up with mommy and daddy saying this is a PNM or a UNC house. And again, there's nothing wrong with this. There's nothing wrong with you being a supporter of the PNM or the UNC. But young persons, especially as it pertains to social media, technology, they are not going to be caught up with their parents directing them.
So you're really talking about the third constituency
that you are going after, right?
Correct.
Okay. At this point, do you have a guess? Well, I suspect your membership is growing. You have an idea of what your actual membership body is? In terms of if you have 100 people, 10,000 people registered?
I think we have about 7,000 odd registered.
Okay.
But again, this is where it lies. There's a major concern of intimidation. Many people in this country are fearful of the government. And there's a reason for that. Almost everyone, they either work in the public sector or they have family in the public sector. Almost everyone, they actually, in the public sector, almost everyone provides some degree of service to the public sector. People are mortified, they're intimidated because of the fact of persons attacking them, questioning them, removing their jobs. Everywhere you go. This has never happened before. We have never seen it under Patrick Manning, Basio Pandey, George Chambers, Kamala Prasad-Bissessar, Eric Williams. This has never happened before. So there's a major fear factor. And that is of great concern. And you would have seen it based on this. We have never seen a situation where a government is trying to manipulate, intimidate citizens, trying to direct the police service in the performance of their duties, trying to hire persons to launch investigations as if it is a police state and hiring civilians to do so. We have situations where the police service commissioner refuses to investigate outright matters of criminal activity. The Bliss Prasad matter, the law was broken. We have the minutes to show that the police service commission never withdrew the merit list, never suspended a commissioner, yet it was done. So it meant that somebody broke the law. The commissioners, after me, have taken instructions apparently, or they're incompetent. They have refused to investigate. There are no police officer could leave this country unless there's approval and authorization by the Minister of National Security. No one could question me on that because I was a security minister. Just 1 minute, and I was a commissioner of police. Those officers who left to abduct Brent Thomas, it was based on government instructions. The government continues to lie, and we have a police service that continues to be fearful of investigating because of a government that is controlling the police service. So because of that, people are fearful to come forward openly to say that they support a party outside of the PNM.
Why didn't you speak at that meeting earlier this week?
Yeah,
as you were listed to.
Yeah, I was scheduled to speak, I think it was between 8 and 8:15 or so, and then Jack was supposed to speak 8:15 to 8:30. So when we finally finished the rollout schedule, when I looked at the time, we were way behind the timeline. So what I decided to myself, I whispered to the political leader of the UNC when she said she saw Jack going up. So what's going on? I said, no, the time was very tight because we were going live on a station. And I told, listen, Jack Warder has not spoken in several years. So I figured this was people continue to hear Gary Griffith speak. I'm going to speak tomorrow night in a major meeting. So I said, listen, rather than squeeze the time that I had 15 minutes, Jack, I would have had 15, and I think Kamala would have been about 20 odd minutes. I said, listen, let me sit out this one so Jack could have more time. It'll give him an extra 5 or 7 minutes, and likewise with herself. So that was all it is. But it is very unfortunate, it's not comical, that every single action I make, people continue to watch and add and come up with things that make absolutely no sense. So that was it, as simple as that. It certainly does mean that every single time there's a political meeting or something that if I don't speak, there is an issue. This was a decision based specifically on myself, and I told Kamala Prasad-Bissessar I thought it was best that Jack Warner should have more playtime because it was his return to public life in several years. And I think it worked well.
My final question is, I think we were just over 2 weeks out, close to that. Should you not be successful, as things happen, you aim for success, but sometimes you're not successful. What are your next steps?
Well, definitely. I have walked the length and breadth of the East-West corridor. I've walked up to the hills in Cocorite, up to the top of Scorpion and Caranage, all in Paramin, Bagatelle, Diamond Vale, Sealots, Beetham, Taruba, going up into Laventille Road, Success, St. Francois Valley Road. The sad thing that I have seen and heard is that every single place that I've gone, which is seen as PNM country, they have never seen the political leader of the PNM and in his 40 years in office, never once. And they've seen a political leader of another party. And that's what I continue to tell them. I said the fact of the matter is the one good thing that no one could question me is my accessibility. And that has been a problem. Everywhere I've gone, they've also said they've never seen the PNM councillor since 2019. So my job is to ensure that regardless of the results, I must continue to make myself accessible, continue to give hope to the country. And I do know one thing I can tell you just quickly before we close off, is that the 31 seats that we are going up against, almost every seat, the PNM won by over 400 odd votes. And 400 votes is a lot, in local government election. So it's a big task. But the fact is, we know for a fact, based on walking around, there's not been one person who made any critical statement to me whilst I was walking. I just walked in Lopino for 3 hours yesterday as well. And it shows that people want change, they want an option, and they want to ensure that their political leaders and parties willing to serve and make themselves accessible. So I am not going to take away my accessibility after August the 14th.
My final question to you, and I said it this morning when we were having the discussion, I am wondering if you can quickly tell us, of the 31 seats that you're contesting, or 31 areas that you're contesting, is the alliance or the arrangement with the UNC, is it that of the 31 that there are sure winners from the NTA in these areas?
Nothing in politics is ever certain. Nobody would have believed 29-12 or 33-3 or that the PNM will come back and win in 2020. One thing, gentlemen, that's very sad. We don't have scientific polls in this country. We have an election going on. Not one media house did a scientific poll. Well, there's one that I got, and it had PNM 43%, UNC 41%, the NTA 10%, other parties 0.3%, which again goes that PNM versus UNC in a two-horse race, PNM will win. The UNC 41 adds to the 10, PNM is defeated. That is what has usually been the case. We do not know what it holds, but as I said, all of the seats that we are going up for, I don't go for easy. I go for the belly of the beast. I'm a soldier. So we are going after those 31 seats that have all been won easily by the PNM since 2019. But again, people want positive change. People want to believe. And again, that is why a loud and clear message will be sent to Keith Rowley on August the 14th.
So I for me to wrap up, so of the 31 candidates contesting areas, in 31 areas, none of them is a comfortable win.
None whatsoever. Everyone, the PNM won easily, I should say, in 2019. But again, you are looking at it from a two-horse race. When it is that last time there was that type of election in local government with the COP joining with the UNC voters, most of those 31 seats would have been won by the People's Partnership. That's why Diego Martin, Tunapuna, Arima, and San Fernando, the People's Partnership took it. So it was 11-3 in 2010. Now it is 7-7. So those four corporations, because of that strategic alliance, you've got the flip over. And may I add, point 14 is one, but it is up for grabs as well. So with that, It could very well be 12-2. It could very well be 7-7. We do not know because we have no media house that wants to do scientific polls. So we don't know. People will doing online polls, doing polls on radio stations that could be politically biased one way or the other. We are only going to find out at around 8 p.m. on August the 14th.
Mr. Griffith, thank you so much.
Thank you very much,
for talking
sir.
with
Thank
us
you
this morning.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
Okay.